Hello students. Now we will read the lesson number 4 Social and Political Movements of class 10th Civics. So let's read. Read out the news in local newspaper. In the above newspaper item different movements are included. Can you explain their meaning? This news deals with different subjects. Are movements related to only one issue? If different movements cooperate with each other, will they be more effective? In the last chapter, we got information about the national and regional parties. Political parties compete for political power. They win elections and try to resolve the problems of common men. Political parties generally adopt a comprehensive perspective. They cannot concentrate on just one particular issue. From public cleanliness to space research, they have to take into consideration all matters from national perspective and take decisions. Political parties are expected to have a program for the problems of all sections of the society. Political parties adopt policies taking into consideration the interests of all farmers, laborers, businessmen, women, youth, and senior citizens. Why movements? Before proceeding, let's see in this blue box. Movement against child marriage has been successful to a great extent, and the extent of child marriages have reduced by 50%. The workers in this movement worked very cons- consciously. Workers from the movement against dowry also helped them. Now there is a need to start a drive against malnutrition because poverty and malnutrition are two important problems to be taken on priority basis. Why movements? All the people in the society cannot participate in political parties and contribute to social welfare. Some people focus on a particular issue and pursue it. Some people focus on a particular issue and pressure and pursue it. They organize people and try to pressurize the government to resolve that issue. They constantly follow up on the issue, build public opinion about it, and thereby put a pressure on political parties and the government. This type of organized activity is called a movement. Organized activity is the essence of any movement. Such movements are very important in a democracy. Different social problems come under discussion through these movements. The government then has to pay attention to such problems. Leaders and leaders and activists of the movement provide necessary information about those issues to the government. This information is very useful for the government while making policies. Some movements aim at opposing a particular decision or policy of the government. The right to protest is considered an important right in democracy. However, this right needs to be used patiently, patiently and responsibly. Can you tell which movement in India are actively working for rehabilitation of the displaced and to secure their livelihood? What is a movement? A movement is a collective action. People's active participation is expected in the movement. A movement can be formed when people come together in the interest of a particular issue. For example, pollution can be a single issue for which a movement can be created. A movement has a particular social objective or a focused problem. For example, movement against corruption aims at ending corruption. Movements have a leadership. Leadership keeps the movement active. Objectives of the movement, program of action, strategy of agitation are decided by its leaders. A strong leadership makes movement effective. Movements have organizations. Without an organization, it becomes difficult to follow up the issues. For example, farmers organization, workers for farmers movement. Any movement requires public support. People should feel connected to the issue that is undertaken by the movement. Movements have a program of action which help them to shape public opinion. Discuss. Generally, the movements are devoted to one particular issue but have an ideology behind them. For example, movements against child marriage, dowry believe in values of democracy, women empowerment, and social equality. Sometimes some movements gradually get transformed into political parties. Read the following dialogue and write a paragraph on it. If the human rights movement becomes inf- influential worldwide, there is no need for other movements. But the problems in developing countries are of different nature. Different social, economic, and cultural conditions may give rise to different movements. It's true, otherwise, we would not have said save girls. We can get an experience of movement here itself. Can we start a movement to make the school surrounding safe for girls? Movements were suppressed during the British period, but in democratic system, existence of movements is an indicator of healthy democratic system. Can you find out which movement in India led to filing of public interest litigation PIL and the judiciary had to give a decision regarding PIL? Name the movement started by Mahatma Gandhi, Mahatma Phule, Sant Gadge Maharaj, and Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Discuss on which issues does the son of the soil movements in India ins- insists. Do this. Collect the news in the newspapers about the movements such as Andhshraddha Nirmulan movement, movement to stop the pollution of rivers, movement against female ferticide, not in my name, etc. Do you know? Civic problems need not originate only in the social sphere. They can emerge from any section of the society. In India, especially in Maharashtra, many social reform movements were started and society started getting modernized. Our struggle for independence was also a social movement. The issues like protecting rights of the citizens, right to vote, minimum wages, and the economic security are the focus of political and economic movements. Swadeshi movement is an important economic movement. Important movements in India. Tribal movement. In the pre-independence period, the British government deprived tribal people of their right to livelihood on forest resources. There was a tribal uprising in Kollam from Chota Nagpur, Gond from Orissa, Koli, Villa, and Ramoshi from Maharashtra, Santhal and Munda from Bihar. The tribal struggle has continued since those years. This is a picture of Birsa Munda. Tribals in India face several problems. One major problem is that they are denied right over forests. The main demand of the tribal movement is to accept their right over forests. They should be allowed to collect products of forests and also should have a right to cultivate on forest land. Farmers movement in India. Farmers movement in India is an important movement. During the British period, farmers started getting organized due to anti-agriculture policies of the British colonial government. You must be aware of farmers movement in Bardoli, Champaranya and movements against revenue collection. The farmers' movements were inspired by the thoughts of Mahatma Phule, Justice Ranade, and Mahatma Gandhi. Due to some reforms in agriculture, tenancy laws, laws relating to tilting of the land, etc., the farmers' movement slowed down. After the Green Revolution, the farmers' movement became more active and effective. Though Green Revolution aimed at increasing agricultural production and achieving self-sufficiency in food grains, it did not benefit the poor farmers. The farmers were now divided into rich farmers and poor farmers. Dissatisfaction among the poor farmers led to the beginning of farmers' movement. Appropriate price for agriculture products, agriculture led to be treated as an industry. Implementation of the recommendations of the Swaminathan Commission, debt relief, debt cancellation, national policy for agriculture are some of the demands of the farmers' movement. शेतकरी संगठना, भारतीय किसान यूनियन, All India Kisan Sabha are some of the important farmers organization in India. Do this. Name the policies started by the government for the welfare of farmers and landless laborers. Labor movement. Labor movement in India emerged in the background of industrialization. Textile industry, railway companies were established in India in the later half of 19th century. In 1899, railway workers went on strike for their demands. However, the first organization for resolving the issues of workers was established in 1920. This organization is known as All India Trade Union Congress. In the post-independence period, labor movement started working more effectively. In 1960s and 1970s, labor movement organized several agitations. But from 1980s, labor movement started getting disintegrated. Globalization has affected the labor movement to a great extent. In India, workers are facing different problems: unstable employment conditions, contract labor, financial insecurity, absence of legal protection for workers, unlimited working hours, insecurity at the workplace, health hazards are some of the problems. Women's movement. In the pre-independence period, progressive men in India initiated the women's movement. The women's movement The women's movement aimed at eliminating injustice against women and ending their exploitation, helped them to lead a respectful life and participate actively in social life. Savitri Bai Phule, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Mahatma Jyotirao Phule, Savitri Bai Phule, Maharshi Dhondo, Keshav Karve, Pandita Ramabai Ranade, took initiative in ending the practice of sati and child marriages. Reforms such as widow remarriage, women education, and right to vote to women were possible due to the work of these reformists. This is the photograph of Ramabai Ranade. After independence, the constitution gave equal rights to women in all fields. In spite of this, women were not treated equally in several fields. Do this. Collect the information about acts related to workers passed in post-independence times with the help of internet. During this period, women's movement aimed at freedom of women. The movement demanded that the women should be treated as human beings. In the later period, women participated to a great extent in the movements against corruption, caste discrimination, and religious extremism, which made them aware of injustice against their own selves. Women started taking initiative in organizing against injustice. In India, women's movement is not homogeneous in nature. However, women's movements at various levels are taking up the issues like women's health, social security, financial independence, and empowerment. Today, women's movement face the challenge of equal education for women and giving women a status and prestige as human beings. Dr. Rajendra Singh, also known as Waterman of India, has brought water revolution in Rajasthan. He became famous because of building thousands of johad in Rajasthan. This is his photograph, Dr. Rajendra Singh. He revived rivers in the desert of Rajasthan. He formed an organization, Tarun Bharat Sangh, Tarun Bharat Sangh, which worked for building 11,000 johad in hundreds of villages. All over India, he started a campaign for water conservation, revival of rivers, forest conservation, and wildlife conservation. His social movement is active for last 31 years. He won the Stockholm Water Prize, an award known as the Nobel Prize for Water. Environment movements. So this is one example related to environment movement. Here environment security photograph is there, a picture is there. We are aware that environmental degradation is a serious problem at national and international level. At the international level, several movements are working to stop the deterioration of the environment. We see a significant international cooperation in this field. In India, many movements are working on different aspects of environment. The environment movements are taking up issues like protection of biodiversity, protecting different sources of water, protection of forests, green belt, pollution of rivers, use of chemicals and their ill effects. Then consumer movement, Jago Grahak Jago. Consumer movement emerged in India after the Consumer Protection Act came into existence in 1986. This movement has a broad objective. The movement believes that each member of the society is a consumer. Due to the changing nature of social and economic system, consumers face different problems. Adulteration, increased cost of items, fraud, frauds in weight and measures are some of the problems. The consumer movement works to protect consumers from such type of frauds. The movements increase the participation of people in public life. The post 1980 movements are called neo social movements as their name is different from the earlier movements. These movements are issue based. It means they try to organize issue based mass movements. In the next chapter, we will study challenges before democracy. So, this is the lesson. We will do exercise in another video. This video is made for the student who want to read the book by listening. Thank you for listening. If you like the video, click on like button, share with your friends, subscribe the channel and press the bell icon to get updates on similar videos when comes. Thank you and happy learning.